Good afternoon, good afternoon. This is Jared once again. I know it's been a long time since we did talk, and last time it was just me, but now I have my boy with me. My boy, his name is I'm gonna let him introduce himself. Go ahead, introduce yourself, bro.
What's up? This is Joe. Joe with the homie Jared. Trying to have this intellectual conversation real quick.
All right, tell him what you do, what you doing in life, what's going on, man.
Oh man, I'm just working, attending college, trying to get my life in order. That's it.
See, Fox News, positive black man right there, okay? I had to loosen him up for the moment because this is a serious topic, but I had to get the little joke in. I tell a little joke. All right, but all jokes aside, though, we're gonna talk about something that's been on not only my chest but his chest for a long time, and we have been talking about it, but we want the people to really know our opinions and how we feel about this particular topic, which of course is Ferguson. Now, I met up with Joe about 30 minutes ago, and we mentioned something. I might as well go ahead and reference this guy because he said it. He said, "Where's MLK when we need him?" Martin Luther King, of course. He said, "Where's Martin Luther King when we need him?" Tyrese posted that. Tyrese Gibson, was it Twitter or on Facebook? He said
Twitter.
He said it on Twitter. And me and him were going back and forth, not arguing, but pretty much, giving our viewpoints and how we feel about what Tyrese said. And not just him. I'm just using him because he's a celebrity, and a lot of the times they say stuff that's magnified. But really just a lot of stuff I've been hearing. I've been hearing from a lot of people. Every time I see it on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, wherever site I go to, CNN, they always ask the same question. Somebody in the comment section says, "Where's, the next Malcolm X, the next Martin Luther King? Where is it when we need him?" So I'm going to ask Joe first how he feels about this topic.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to put it this way. That's been going around, and I agree with it. All we got is us. And that's not excluding any other ethnicity. That's just meaning that, considering what's happening, to give also another perspective, just this last, what was it, Tuesday?
Yeah, I believe it's Tuesday.
Yeah, just this last Tuesday, past Tuesday, excuse me, the announcement, for the grand jury announcement for Eric Gardner was released, which came out as no indictment, which is following the last week's no indictment of Darren Wilson and the killing of Michael Brown, Officer Darren Wilson. At this point, it's pushed black people in this country to a unfair threshold. And going back to what Jared asked earlier about, Tyrese's Martin Luther King statement, I was telling him we don't really need one leader. There have been multiple leaders. The Ferguson movement has been going on for 119 days now with no leader. I mean, people didn't even think this whole thing would last from August, when Michael Brown died, August 9th. And we're in December now, getting ready to be at the end of the year. And it's still going on worldwide, from Hong Kong to Brazil to London, even Canada.
Canada?
Yeah. Man.
Shout out to Eric.
Yeah, you get yourself in the 50s.
Shout out to Eric. That's my friend, from school, middle school, high school.
Yeah. So, I mean, no movement could last this long, even without a leader, if it wasn't passionate, if it wasn't drawn on people, a collective of people coming together and feel like we're fed up,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like, which is go back to what I mentioned about all we got is us. We don't need this one, we need to get off this next Martin Luther King, next Malcolm thing, because it's not going to happen. I mean, it's been said before, it's not going to happen, but we can make the most of it. People have been making the most of it for 119 days now. Mm-hmm. So that's my feeling on that.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, man. I feel everything that you're saying. And what I was saying, I think when we talked about this earlier, there was a little bit of a misunderstanding. When I mentioned the fact that we need a leader in the situation, not to exclude myself, because I consider myself in that position, and I will do my part. But what I meant by that in particular is that with organizing anything, even a protest, and I use myself as an example because we did this at Fayetteville State University when we organized, similar to Occupy Wall Street. It was around the same time, but really we were protesting the tuition increases where they were going to at Fayetteville State University, and also the ineffective security on campus. Those are the main points of that whole protest. But what happened is it was everybody's input, it was everybody's involvement in that protest. But at the same time, there was that one person to be the orator, or someone to pretty much guide people. Because think about it, if it's a march, somebody has to be in front. So I mean, of course, me being in front, being the president, but that didn't necessarily mean that it was my idea, because I've always gave credit to the guy that organized it, which was Brian. He was a member of our club, and it was his idea. But to be honest with you, looking at it from the outside, people won't know that. They just look at whoever's at front, and whoever's doing whatever, speaking out loud, and that you see on the front picture in the newspaper in the morning. You'll think that's the person it was his idea. And once again, this is all of our input, all of our involvement, but there was one person to be the face. There's always that face. And to give an even better example, and I was just thinking about this, it just came across my mind. Domestic violence. I mean, this is something that's been talked about in the media for these past few months. Everybody knows what's going on with the Ray Rice situation, and even a lot of subjects have been brought up from the past, like Chris Brown and Rihanna. But what I'm saying with that is, even though this is not all about Ray Rice, right now he's just the face of domestic violence to pretty much bring awareness to the issue. Now, whether you agree with him or not, whether you think he was wrong or not, I'm saying that he's the face because he is the one that's going to get everything out in the open and, really shine light on the issue. Because I mentioned Tyrese, how I mentioned his tweet because he's a celebrity. A lot of times with celebrities, a lot of stuff they do is magnified. So I put his name out there so I can understand that Ray Rice is going to be the face of this particular topic, so we can really bring, awareness to this issue. Even with Adrian Peterson with corporal punishment, he was the face of that. And, even with a lot of other situations, you can say with Mike Brown, of course, that's what we're talking about. Mike Brown, he's the face of victims of police brutality. Now, it's not all about him, and this is not to be selfish and be like, well, it's all about Mike, but you have to understand that there has to be a face. And as far as a leader, there has to be a face too, because it has to be some type of orator that's going to keep everything in line. Now, at the same time, I keep saying this, but everybody has to get involved. Like he was saying, this is international now. I didn't know it was Canada, but I knew about Hong Kong, and I knew about a few other countries. But this goes to show you that we're not going to fall on deaf ears with this. This is something that we're going to keep drilling to their heads until they're going to really push forward for legislation and other ways that we can actually improve. So I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm very angry, man, because I was watching this, and I hate to stray off into this Eric Gardner thing, but this is all part of the same topic. But I was upset, man, because this idiot, I don't know what he was. He was a police chief. He was a police something. He worked for the police, put it that way. And he got on national television.
Peter King?
I don't know what, Stephen King, I don't know what his name was. He had the nerve to insult our intelligence. He said that, clearly looking at the tape, this was caught on tape. He had the nerve to tell us that what the cop did to Eric Gardner was not a chokehold.
I saw that.
And damn 34 minutes later, the damn medical examiner, which is an expert, he said that this is a chokehold. So I'm taking the medical examiner's word over it. He's an expert over the police chief who said that, and this was his excuse. He was like, oh, well, you guys don't know. I've had experience wrestling in my life. Like, really, where are your trophies at? Where's the proof at? Like, we don't know this, but you are using that. And they're just like, me and my father talked about this too. Like, everybody's just thinking of a way to I don't even call it oversaturated, just overthink everything. Like, every point that's mentioned, they try to make an excuse for it. I mentioned the chokehold. Like, oh, well, that wasn't technically a chokehold. Then they said he was saying, I can't breathe, but he was still breathing. I'm like, do y'all understand what it means when you say, I can't breathe? It just, I don't get it, man. It's just an insult,
sick, man. That's sick.
Yeah.
And he died still. Do y'all forget that? He said that, and then he died.
Yeah.
How you gonna say, oh, well, if you would say, I can't breathe and you're still breathing, then why did he die? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm gonna ask you that, if that's the case, then why did he die? Mm-hmm. And, have you seen the actual video of Eric Gardner?
Oh, yeah, I've seen it when it first came out. Mm-hmm.
What was your thoughts? I don't think we ever talked about that.
We never? I'm glad we're getting out in the open now, man. What I thought about it was,
the first time you saw it, whatever.
Okay, first of all, and this is the guy that was recording, I'm going to talk about him first. Okay. Because this is what he said. Now, I heard what he said the first time, but you know how sometimes when you listen to a song, you hear something, but you don't really hear it to the like third or fourth or fifth time.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, he said. Now keep in mind, you probably heard this too. He said all he was doing was breaking up a fight. So when I heard it the first time, I was like, I just heard people talking in the background. It didn't really catch my attention. But when I heard it recently, when they showed it on the news, and I was watching it with my dad, we said the same thing. We were like, wait a minute. Breaking up a fight. So apparently before this was caught on video, there was something going on before with Eric Gardner trying to do the right thing. And it could have been something that could have exposed the cops. And that if he got away with it, it would have been a lot of trouble for them. So I'm starting to think that his cigarettes were very, very minor compared to what Eric Gardner was trying to do, which was trying to break up a fight. Now, I didn't see that. I don't have 100% proof that this was the case. But, I mean, it would seem weird that the guy on tape would say something like that and not be true. So it makes me think, like, wait a minute, this is much deeper than cigarettes.
Eric Gardner sent himself in a video if you listen closely.
Oh, really? And that's another thing, I didn't catch on that. But
next time you watch the video, at least watch it when he's talking to the cop. And that's another thing, the dialogue, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Next point.
The dialogue of Eric Gardner, a police officer, is not something that was necessarily conversational. It was like a plea. Starting when he does say you listen to the video yourself. He just said, I just got done breaking up a fight. You keep harassing me. This ends today. Then, like verbatim, he says, like, I'm minding my business, officer. Please leave me alone. And as soon as he says that, that's when the incident occurs. He's putting the chokehold and wrestle down. He's not resisting arrest. He's saying, I can't breathe. In all those instances, the cops' life were not in danger. They were completely the aggressors. Hands down. It's not opinionated, it's a fact. They were aggressors. Their lives weren't in danger, and that's the main plea. When excessive force on any case, whether it's with weapons or anything in regards to police officers, that's the number one plea. If it's not resisting arrest from whoever they're encountering, it's my life was in danger when it's deadly, when it's fatal. And at that point, obviously that's not an excuse for them whatsoever because their lives were not in danger. There were 5 officers that rushed Eric Gardner, 1 officer that killed him. But what was it when you first saw it? You mentioned with the him breaking up a fight, but when you actually saw, once a chokehold happened, what ran through your mind?
It was crazy. A little off topic. Be careful with that because it might fall and break. Just wanted to make sure you do that. But that's cool though. You're fine. Just make sure you don't get too close to that. But my first initial thought was what can you possibly do? What did he do that was wrong? I mean, what are y'all talking about? Their excuse was that he was a threat. I'm like, he had his hands up. People don't know, they're thinking that in the whole video. They look at him and they see his size. But just like what people were saying with the Mike Brown shooting, he had his hands up. 6 or 7 guys took him down. Now, you mean to tell me it takes all of them? I know he was a big guy, but it takes really all of them to take down a guy that has his hands up?
He's just the same height as Michael Brown, Darren Wilson. He said he was 6'4".
My point exactly. And I mentioned this point that I didn't really catch on to this, and this may be small to me, but I just thought it was kind of ironic that you had one situation where a kid was killed for supposedly stealing cigarettes, and you had somebody that got killed for supposedly selling cigarettes.
That weren't found on his body by investigators after he was killed.
Exactly.
And he said that in the video. That's another thing. He's like, look at me, I'm not selling cigarettes. And then, matter of fact, I thought one part that he said was kind of funny. The officer said something, whispering. He's like, someone, we saw you do something. And he's like, who you sell cigarettes to? You saw that when he put his hand on? He's like, who you sell some cigarettes to? He's like, I don't have anything. That's crazy.
It's the whole gang mentality, man. And it's getting really ridiculous. And I posted this other day. I'm like, why is everybody so quick to... I understand there's loyalty, but there's such thing as... There's a difference between loyalty. And there's a difference between blind loyalty. Blind loyalty is when you just go ahead and just support your teammate even when he's wrong. I mean, these cops... I've heard one cop come out on tape with this whole Ferguson thing. He said that, I apologize on behalf of them. This doesn't represent all of us. I'm truly sorry. What we did is wrong. Man,
that was phony.
And even if it was phony, it's just like we haven't received that. Everybody just go ahead and defend their side. Like even with teachers, there's really a lot of times when good teachers don't call it the bad teachers. And to me, that makes you a bad teacher. Like people get this whole good cop bad cop thing mixed up.
I say that.
A good cop is not a cop that does what he's supposed to be doing, passing out tickets and writing fines and just checking traffic. That's not a good cop. That's just a cop that's doing his job. I mean, this is a good thing in general because he's not out there destroying property or harassing people. But at the same time, if he doesn't call out his comrades, to me that makes him a bad cop. Because if you think about different movies like Samuel Jackson and Coach Carter, he was a good coach because he went the extra mile. He wanted to emphasize the importance of education and how his players need to get educated before they can get educated on the court. He wanted them to get their grades up, and he punished them for not getting their grades up, and they couldn't play. That's being a good coach. And with Hilary Swank in the movie Freedom Writers, she went the extra mile for her students because she could have just came to class. She could have passed out pamphlets and lectured the class all day, and that would have been it. But she went the extra mile. She made sure that they had real education. And that's what makes them different. Those are good teachers. Those are good coaches. Good cops would do the same thing.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. Just to go on your point. What was the officer, you knew his name, I forgot. You didn't know his name. Officer who helped that kid who was homeless.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's on the tip of my tongue, Joe. I can't think of his name right now, but look the story up. And you won't have a problem looking up the story because all you have to do is type in cop that donates weed to 13-year-old. Because that's who he was. He was a 13-year-old kid. And I guess he was like in the hood, I'm guessing. But he wasn't really, fortunate, and he was going through a lot of tough times with his mother. And I believe his father wasn't around either. But the cop came to his house. He was like, look, you have a bed, I'm going to get you a bed. You have a video game system, I'm going to get you a Wii. He started getting him all these items, and he just came back from time to time, not just to give him material objects, but for moral support, to make sure he was okay, to make sure that he was doing good in school, to make sure his mother was okay. Just, keep doing those follow-ups, and I really appreciate that. To me, that's the epitome of a good cop, honestly.
Yeah, I agree, man.
This whole thing is crazy, man.
New York.
You said New York just now. Shout out to Q-Tip from Tribe Called Quest. He was leading some of the protests out there. You need more of that. And J. Cole was out there recently. People say it was for album publicity, but I'm like, guys, whatever, man. Like, just
you actually say
he
that?
was out there. Yeah, I mean, damn, what do you want from him? He came out and spoke at Ferguson before his album was released, wasn't it? But people could say that's album publicity too. But I'm like, what do y'all want from this man? He's out there.
You didn't have to do that to publish this album. There's plenty of other artists.
Plenty of ways, right?
Yeah, exactly, that publish their albums.
Right.
He could go on that same route. He technically did before with his first album, and that actually did good.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, he didn't have to say anything, but he kept it real.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize, man, like, even judging a lot of these organizations, man, I don't like people that sit from the side. Some of them are phony, man, but at the same time, some of them are doing stuff, and I can't be like, they call it like the armchair revolutionary that doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. That just sits back and judges everybody. It doesn't get out and get involved. I can't be that person anymore. Like, there are a lot of organizations I don't agree with, but at the same time, there are stuff that they are doing. So I think the solution is to go inside that organization and make it better, not to really criticize from the armchair, That's not really beneficial for anybody. So I want to definitely do what J. Cole is doing. He may not be doing everything in the world that he can do, but he's doing a lot. And so is Killer Mike. So is Talib Kweli. So is Q-Tip. So is a lot of people, But more specifically, Killer Mike, I really got to give him his props. He's a rapper, by the way, for those who don't know. Killer Mike is a rapper. And he came out on CNN to speak about this issue. And the guy, no homo, the guy with the eyes from the show, the middle, he's mixed. He's biracial. And he's from, I think he plays a doctor in the show.
Jesse Williams?
Yeah. He spoke out,
He's been speaking out ever since.
Exactly. Yeah, he came out there. He was on CNN, and he gave a lot of good points. How a lot of white kids aren't penalized as much for stealing. And speaking of that, there was a hashtag the other day on Twitter that I was hearing about called, white people that steal and got away with it. And some of the stories I was hearing about were just ridiculous, man. Like how they have white privilege in America. I'm like, why do you deny that there's white privilege that exists? When people say that, I'm like, to deny that white privilege exists is like saying Shaquille O'Neal is not a tall person. It's like it's a fallacy because it's not true. It's there. It's there because you see it and you have the proof that it's there. And they kind of get white privilege mixed up with something else. Like, Joe, what do you think that they think white privilege is? Because I guess they have a misunderstanding of what it is. They get offended. Yeah.
There's white privilege and there's white supremacy. But I feel that when you make those things, they feel that either you're being racist or you're excluding white people, which goes back to the statement "all we got is us" because they feel excluded. No, you're not excluded. It's a factual thing. Like, it's a condensed thing of a certain group of people. Like, you've heard the statement also, Black Lives Matter, right? There are certain individuals who try to change that to All Lives Matter, which is against the point. Of course, it's redundant to bring up All Lives Matter. We know all lives matter in the grand scheme of things. However, specifically, Black lives are consistently being targeted by police, both in a fatal death sense and just in a general harassment sense, and a prison industrial complex sense. So, by the way, I don't know if you read the book, The New Jim Crow. I'm trying to read that and look up a book by Howard Zinn. Look his name up. They're great books on the system.
That's another thing, guys. I mean, not trying to sound too preachy, but read, because a lot of us have been miseducated. Like Lauryn Hill said, it's the miseducation of America. We need to really get back to reading, man, and especially about the prison industrial complex. Like he said, man, this is something serious.
New Jim Crow, good book. For
those who aren't familiar with the prison industrial complex, pretty much what that is a way to benefit rich people by throwing people in jail. Not just poor people, but a lot of times it is poor people, minorities, mainly being blacks and Hispanics, because we're mainly targeted for drug offenses. You know, finding drugs, which is kind of a fallacy because you think about it. A lot of times, in the majority of these cases, and I'm not making up, this is facts that you can actually research. The main people targeted with the blacks and Hispanics, the majority of the time that they're caught, there's nothing on them. There's no weed, there's no cocaine, there's no drug at all. But ironically, they're the main targets. It's like everything that black people do is magnified. Even with hip-hop, you know, I don't agree with a lot of the messages in there, and I believe that some of them are negative. But at the same time, like Scarface said, he was like, he's Scarface the rapper. He said, David Duke's got a shotgun, but why you get upset when I got one? It's like everything that we do is so magnified, and you gotta understand that we didn't create this violence. We weren't around when Christopher Columbus was around. We wasn't around when Alexander the Great was around. All of this was before us.
Sylvia and Bundy. Look up Sylvia and Bundy.
Exactly.
You heard about that?
I've heard. I don't know much about it, but I've heard a little bit about it.
Sylvia and Bundy is a man who owned a cattle ranch. He decided that he was going to start paying the government. Government came to his ranch. He grabbed his buddies up, got guns, pointed at cops. They retreated, and now it's been a standoff ever since 1996. And he still got his guns, and none of his crew been killed.
Yeah, this is real, but I wanna see what's gonna happen. I believe a change will happen, but it has to be everybody involved. You know, and I'm glad this just popped in my mind because we were just talking about how, you know, a lot of not just rappers but black people in general, whenever we do something that's so magnified. I thought about the violence, black on black crime. We know this is an issue, but please do not take the time to talk about this. This is off the damn topic. This has nothing to do with black on black crime. We know this is a problem. That's something we could talk about separately. And there's no need to mention it right now. Now, I do agree with the fact that a lot of times we are upset on the international level and the national level whenever it's a white man doing something to a black man. I do agree with that point. But at the same time, this is not just about race. It's Black Lives Matters. But at the same time, this is more about police corruption and power. Yeah, the police state, what they call it. Mm-hmm. They said that during Philadelphia in the 1960s, that's the closest thing in America we ever seen to being a police state. But I kind of disagree. I think this is much worse than that. Because back then, it was more geared towards, you know, targeting civil rights groups, you know, like the Move, Black Panthers. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody knows of the groups during that time in the 1960s, but, you know, I think this is much worse because now it's happening to everybody. It's not just blacks. It's, you know, even the white kid that was killed with the earphones and I believe the kid that had the paintball gun in Walmart that was killed when they thought it was a real gun, I think he was white too.
No, he was black.
Oh, he was?
John Crawford, black
okay.
dude.
Well, they posted an article. I saw a black. The way they posted the article made it seem like he was a white guy, but
a white man called police on him saying he was waving a gun around people. Mm-hmm. He came out and admitted he lied after Crawford was killed.
Mm-hmm.
A relative of mine said he should burn in hell, but that's a different story.
We're not gonna talk about that relative or that in general. Yeah. But I do know the guy with the earphones. I know that for a fact, 100%, that he was white. So yeah, I mean, all the white people just getting mad at me. Look, I just gave y'all an example, and there's plenty of other examples. If you're so mad at me,
white man.
If you're so mad at me, and you want to prove that there's cases where police are killing white people, you post it on Facebook and Twitter. Stop getting mad at me and making these redundant points that we already know. You know, we already know that there's black on black crime. We already know there's black on white crime, and vice versa. So stop doing that. Just be about action. Like you said, you can't stand from an armchair and just judge people. Just go out there and post articles and do what you gotta do. Sign a petition, get involved in a protest. You know, write to your legislators. This is the problem too, because going back to the political aspect of it, the guy, I know you heard about him. He recently got elected in Ferguson because he ran against nobody. He ran unopposed pretty much. And this is the thing, like, we can protest, man, but we need to get out there and vote, because if not, they're not going to take us seriously, especially as black people. We already lack political power.
They might not take us seriously if we do vote, Jared. I mean, like I said, that man is a Democrat. Let's keep that in mind, too. Mm-hmm. The prosecutor for the Darren Wilson case, well, that was going to be a case, Bob McCullough, he's a Democrat. Our president is a Democrat. And look at the situation we're in now. You know, I mean, I'm not against voting. Let me make that clear. But at the same time, and people did vote in Ferguson. Mm-hmm. You know, but at the same time, it's more than just voting. You know what I'm saying? Like you mentioned how we gotta do more than protest, but at the same time, we gotta do more than vote. And people did do both. Mm-hmm. Now we just need some form of legislation. But now that we're talking about those, after the no indictment was announced for Eric Gardner, I don't know if you saw it with the fam, Jared. Before I get to that, I wanted to ask real quick, what did your pops think about Eric Gardner video, the actual video itself? Cause I'm pretty sure you saw it with you, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like everybody else, he was upset about that.
What was his comments?
I mean, just being on YouTube, I don't think he would put his opinions out there. Oh, okay. But I mean, yeah, just put it this way: he was upset like every other American should be. Because everybody should be upset after seeing that, I mean, to me, that's just, we always talk about the general consensus. To me, that's the general consensus. Should be upset about that. I'll let you ask him about that. I don't want to put his business out there. He said what he had to say, but, I'm sure he was upset like every other American. We're tired of this, man. And it's not just cops in general. It's authority figures, man. And I'm glad we're at the mall right now, because this happened here about 2007, 7 years ago? It was a while ago. It was 2007, and I was out here with a group of friends, and it was about, I want to say 12 o'clock. It was pretty late, and we just finished watching a movie, so we went outside, and this is when, before we had our license, before we were driving, and my mom came to pick us up. Oh, yeah, me and the crew, yeah, your brother, and everybody else, Javis and everybody else, but yeah, we were out here, and the security guard came up to me. He was like, look, you guys got about 10 to 15 minutes to move across the street over to Steak and Shake, because if you don't, it's going to be considered loitering. And what you need to understand is you're on my property right now. He said it to us. And I was like, what? I was like, it was kind of a shocker. I don't even remember what I said. I was mad, but I was like, I kind of looked at him like, I was like, be loitering. I can't remember what I said, but it was just, in the heat of the moment, you just say anything. Mm-hmm. Not that I said anything that was bad, I kind of like, it was like kind of sarcastic remark. I'm like, how can you really say something like that, And like, they're out here just trying to bully these kids, man. It's just the whole authority figures in general. I even had North Lake when I used to work there a long time ago, when I was in high school. Security guard came out there and told us we couldn't sit down. And the guy was on his phone with his dad. He was like, man, get that hair, got hair, man, dad. Security guard told me I can't sit down. My feet tired. I've been working all day. Hold on, let me go to the movies, dad. He was like, I'm tired of this, man. Just like, they out here bullying these kids, man, and just... It's the badge, and it's the flashlight, and it's just that whole authority mentality, man. And we getting sick and tired of it. Really.
The egos, man. But what I was going to ask before was, after the no indictment was called on Eric Gardner, I was going to ask, did you see Obama's speech again on the body cams? And what was your thoughts on that?
I didn't see it yet, but I'm just saying this. I don't get secondhand information, but apparently what he said is that even with body cams, they're going to still be doing this, because everything that's already been exposed has already been recorded. So what's the difference with body cams? Now, he wasn't the only one that said that.
No, Obama didn't say that.
Yeah, but somebody else did.
Okay.
Somebody else did.
Okay.
But, like I said, it was in the context of, I don't look at the title and base my opinion. I'm just saying, going by that. But don't quote me on that, because I'm not saying Obama said it. I'm just saying that apparently that's what was mentioned. I'm going to go watch the speech so I can form my own opinion. But somebody else made that point, too. So it doesn't matter who said it. It was already said. A point that I didn't even think about. I didn't consider the fact that, everything has been recorded. Yeah, so why would cameras change it?
I don't know. Who thinks that they won't edit those videos?
Right.
To fit their narrative. Matter of fact, there was already a case of another young black man with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
Got shot in the head. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, he lived. But a cop, she was wearing a body cam. Mm-hmm. She claimed her cam malfunctioned. Seriously. And how many reports? And as much as Obama's been ordering, he ordered, I believe, over at least 300,000 across the state. Mm-hmm. Body cams for officers. How many statements are going to be made, do you think, Jared? I guess I would ask the viewers, how many statements you think are going to come out of malfunctions with body cams by officers?
I think it's going to be altered. And we talk about Bill O'Reilly all the time. If you really pay attention to a lot of his videos when he invites guests, and I'm going to make a point with this, but when he invites his guests to come and speak, he'll have them come and speak, and they'll make their points. And a lot of times there are valid points, but he's breaking out a part of the conversation. As you can see when you watch the video, it'll skip from one scene to the other, because apparently there's something that they said that he didn't want them to say on TV, so he edited that out and just skipped to the next scene. The reason why I mention that is because I believe that some of the same things can happen if we have those cops having cameras. They can edit certain details out to make it seem like they're the heroes and that, the other person's a thug. Yeah. Like, how they love to use the word thug. We're not going to get into that, but they love to use the word thug.
The new word for the N-word. I don't even say that. It's called nigger. It's not cuss word.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. Mm-hmm. It really is. I mean, everything is a thug. Even Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman came out and gave his little rant.
Again, new word for nigger.
Yeah, he's a thug for that. But yeah, that's how I feel about that. I think they're going to do just like what Bill O'Reilly does. They're going to be the Bill O'Reilly of webcams. They're going to use it to fit their narrative. Yeah, it's just ridiculous, man. And but at the same time, we need to put restrictions on that. I mean, if we have to keep putting restrictions, that's what we need to do. If we have to have webcams and just add different rules to it, that's what we need to do. Because if you break the rules, then you're not legally justified to do that. So that's when we can actually say that, well, article such and such says that you can do that. We put that restriction in there. You didn't read the book, so we're still going to hold you accountable for that. But let's hope that does happen, though. So
that's what people are hoping now. I mean, some cases, particularly from those that happen to be Caucasian, they survive it. But if us, with the exception of one black man who confronted 4 police officers in regards to his child and was able to survive it. Mm-hmm. He was the lucky one, but most of the time you won't really find those cases that people know their laws, which we all should. I'm guilty of that myself on certain cases.
Oh, yeah, everybody is, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm trying to study up more, as much as I can on that. Know my rights, know what I can't do, know what I can do. What's a good area to say? And another thing about body cams is that the way they're positioned, unless they're at a distance from the officer, in a situation, going back to Eric Garner, if the officer that killed him was wearing a body cam, what would we be able to see? We wouldn't see anything different than what we saw with the man that got arrested, that videotaped the incident himself. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, we would literally saw just the back of Gardner's shirt pressed up against the camera. Because have you seen the actual cameras they have? They're like this, man. They're
I've seen a few of them, but I'm pretty sure it's more of them. The different types of them. Uh-huh.
No, they have them right here. Like, they have in San Francisco, and the way they have them is like they wear a cam, but like, what does that do? Like, that doesn't, like, they claim in their defense that it's going to make the officers, and people defend it, like journalists, whatever, they say it's going to make the officers be held more accountable. Mm-hmm. Now, the few officers, going back to what we mentioned a lot earlier, that don't, really harass or harass people, it's not going to do anything for them. I mean, it's just going to be it's going to be different with the guy dash cam on the front. Sorry, this thing.
Man, that boy got passionate. I want to say, Joe spin that real, man. Passing the collection plates, boy. Joe spin deep.
But yeah, man. like I said, it's gonna be nothing different than with them having a dash cam wherever you watch Cops.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Granted, to those that don't, abuse their power and whatnot, but to those that do, this just gives them an excuse to manufacture things in their favor. They can easily edit out events and time that took place and said that. Also, keep in mind they run on batteries. So go on the excuse that my batteries died, or he ripped it, or he took it off during a scuffle. My camera got knocked off. Then that person ends up dead. All these different scenarios that lead negatively, and people, particularly journalists, believe that this is going to be a change how police, but it's not. It's going to be the same way they did when they had dash cams. And they do have another camera, I forgot. There's the dash cam and there's the but yeah, my point is that these officers that already abuse their power, this is going to make them. They believe this is going to scare the officers that they think are going to abuse their power to act right. They're not. They're just going to find a new excuse to move around it the way they always have. The way they had murder on most cases that I fear for my life. If it's on video, same case as Eric Garner thing is not going to be any different. And that's kind of a slap in the face of civilians. That's another thing. I keep mentioning Eric Garner like we have a citizen who later, granted, got arrested. They feel that video is inaccurate, but we see clearly that this man has been killed through a chokehold. On any sense, from forensics to the detectives that ruled it a homicide, in spite of the fact of the non-indictment. It's a slap in the face of civilians because you're saying that the officer's word is more important than civilians, plain and simple. I should really think about it. If you get cops body cams, and your rationale, among other things, is that this will be what we'll use to have officers be held more accountable. But when you have other incidents filmed by civilians that show the same thing you claim the cameras are gonna see, that's gonna help make officers accountable for their actions. Again, it's a slap in the face of civilians.
Yeah. And another thing is, man, like all these cops that are saying I'm such against this and that this doesn't represent all of us.
They saying it don't work, which I actually agree with.
My thing for you guys that are saying this, you
You're
guys need
right.
you guys need to pick better spokespeople, because put it this way, if there's somebody that's speaking on behalf of white people, you're not going to get that guy from the Batman theater that did the shooting. You're not going to get him to speak on live TV to represent all white people. So don't do the same thing with cops. Don't get people that are going to make a fool of themselves and that are going to deny the facts on live TV. Just like the police guy that mentioned that his wrestling experience was proof that wasn't a chokehold on Eric Gardner, that it was something else.
Chokeholds are illegal anyway.
Exactly. But if you're going to be like, well, we're the cops and you can't generalize us, then at the same time, you guys have to pick better people to speak on your behalf, because it's not going to help your cause if they're going to get on TV and make a fool out of themselves. I mean, that's just how I feel about that, you know? So you gotta do a better job at that. So it's something that we have to, it's like an effort that's going to be, it's going to take everybody's effort, man. You know, people can be mad at Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson or whatever, man, but at the same time, you guys need to understand that they're older. I'm not going to say they're old. They're older and they're tired, man. They've been doing this for years. And whether you like them or not, it's up to us. It's our generation. We have to stop looking for them all the time. Yep. Yeah, to be just the babyest, man. You know, it's good. I put it this way.
Going back to what you mentioned earlier, I'm sorry to cut you off. What you just said about the cops. Using the Peter King, the officer you mentioned, to be the representation of cops. We need to stop using, with all due respect to him, I guess, Sharpton and Jesse Jackson as representation of black people, as they all speak for us specifically. Even if he does speak for injustice, which is true, you know, that's the basics. We know that. He made some good case after the Darren Wilson non-indictment was called. But other than that, man, at some point, we just need to let it go. Give it to the younger generation. I mean, a young woman in Ferguson, Ashley Yates, spoke on how she technically, when she spoke with the president, some of the protesters from Ferguson met with President Obama, I think it was last Wednesday. They spoke with President Obama, had a meeting with him. They talked to him and the vice president, a pretty hour and a half long conversation. Al Sharpton happened to be there. He didn't address any of them. He didn't know their names. He basically treated them like they're non-existent and felt that, just like we mentioned like earlier in the video, his version of a protest was the most sufficient. Basically acknowledging all the work the Ferguson protesters had done up to that point. And at that point, it's like, all right, man, you need to go.
What, you said it was efficient or wasn't efficient?
He was treating it like their protests were not efficient.
Oh, so you're saying he was kind of looking down?
Yes.
You were talking about Sharpton,
yeah,
right?
Not even acknowledging them. Yes, Al Sharpton wasn't acknowledging them.
You know, as far as them, man, I want to say this too, you know, because this is not the first time I've heard stuff like this from them. Like, people that knew them personally. And I want to mention this guy because you know who I'm talking about, with me, Abu Jamal. He wrote a book. It's called Live from Death Row. Check it out. It's on Amazon. It's called Live from Death Row. It's about his experience on death row, because we all know that he was accused of killing that Philadelphia police officer. Please pay attention to the story, because a lot of evidence came out showing that he was actually innocent and that everything was good. But yeah, what we need to do is understand, because he mentioned in his book that when he was a journalist, he actually interviewed Jesse Jackson, which I didn't tell you, and off the camera, because he had a recorder back then. Back then they had those old school recorders, and he was like, he made a statement about the black community. Jesse Jackson said, "I didn't come here to speak to a bunch of dirty niggers." Pretty much that's what he said. But me and Abu Jamal heard what he said. He was like, "Look, let me turn on my tape so you can say that again." He was like, "Oh, never mind." He was like, "I take that back." So it's stuff like this we need to really pay attention to. And I mean, to be honest with you, people would say, "Well, Jerry, you weren't there," but why would he really make that up? I mean, that just seems kind of fishy that he would actually do that.
It's funny you mentioned that, because on a documentary I saw a few months ago, after the whole before the whole Mike Brown thing came to light, before he passed, unfortunately, my family and I watched a Martin Luther King documentary. But it wasn't your typical happy, civil rights, documentary. It was arguably one of, if not the most darkest, if I can use that word appropriately, documentaries on Martin Luther King I've ever seen. Talking about his infidelity, his relationship with a white woman. A lot of people didn't know about that. Did you know about that?
Infidelity, I didn't know white woman specifically, but yeah, I knew it was women.
Prior to Coretta,
right? White, black, Hispanic, either way, it's bad. Yeah.
Well, no, the white woman was prior to Coretta. He was apparently was in love with her. You know, he was very close with her, but obviously where he grew up, you know, that would cost him his life. So that was discontinued. Yeah. And you know, the FBI. One thing, did you know the FBI sent him a letter to try to make him commit suicide?
Yeah, I read a book, man. I'm still reading it right now. Tavis Smiley. It's about Martin Luther King. It's called the final year of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life, something to that nature. But yeah, he talked about how the FBI was doing everything to pretty much destroy him. You sending him messages, and yeah, that's something. Really read that book and really get the details of that. But yeah, I'm not surprised that happened. They were doing everything to kind of like blackmail him. But I would definitely love to continue this conversation. But I need to head out. We definitely got to wrap this up. But I appreciate your time, man.
Okay, I'll just throw this one piece of advice about that film real quick.
Yeah.
About that film, what he was doing was they were trying to find infidelity tapes and blackmail him with that. They actually didn't find that. What they did find, pretty much go back to what you mentioned earlier about Jesse Jackson, of him making inflammatory jokes on the black community, you know. And they were going to use that against him, blackmail him against him. Surprisingly, he never released it, but I just always thought that was interesting. But that was it. That's all. Yeah,
this may have to be a topic of discussion for next time, because we're definitely not going to stop talking about this. We're definitely not going to stop protesting. Despite what people say, we're not going to get discouraged. I appreciate you, Joe, for taking your time to speak with me about this and do your part. So, really appreciate it, guys. And once again, your boy Jared. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and my Jacob64 music channel. And always, make sure you check out the book link for smashwords.com, my new book. Well, not my new book, but my book that's been out for a while. And appreciate the support, guys. And I hope you have a good day.